Do our stretches.
Let's you going through
All right.
budget, public works, roads. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
It's all Bill.
All right, I'll start.
Bill.
Okay, I'm going to start this off. I will start the discussion here today with the two funds within the public works budget under the general fund. So we'll start with GIS. The GIS department has historically remained pretty flat. There is one change from 2002 to 2003, where we did take all the mapping staff that was within Public Works. There was one that was under the Public Works Fund, who was a tenured employee of over 20 years.
2002 to 2003?
2022 to 2023, and we moved that one person from one budget to another budget. It was not additional staffing. The budget came in under the at the 2.8% as requested. Primarily, what we have is education and contracts for the services that are being provided by Integrity. Pretty self-explanatory. We have had significant turnover in that department underneath the supervisor position over the course of the last 4 years. We've had 4 GIS analysts, we lost a tenured employee to a promotion, and the GIS technician position we have replaced this in the last 6 months. Any questions about that budget?
I know, that's kind of easy. Okay, moving right along.
Okay. The other budget that's within the general fund is the noxious weed budget. Noxious weed budget, we brought that back in at the 2.8% as requested. Primarily, we left all of the line items flat within the actual operating budget. Revenue neutral is what we ended up going for, and you'll see that to be a reoccurring theme today. We went revenue neutral in all of the line items because we have to fund our equipment. We are falling behind in the equipment funding. Obviously, equipment has risen at much higher than the rate of inflation. In some cases, we've seen 100% increases in the last 3 or 4 years. And so we did go revenue neutral across the board. The largest line item within the noxious weed department is the chemicals, and that is a state mandate. And so we do sell those chemicals at a reduced cost. So while we do receive reimbursement for some of that line item from the sale of the chemicals, it is being subsidized as the state statute mandates.
Another state unfunded mandate.
Any other questions on this one?
Doing a wet
Simple. Okay, Bill, next.
Yeah, just stamp it.
Next, we'll discuss the local budget, local road budget. This is a separate motion from this morning.
Separate folder.
So, from the local service budget,
Front page.
it was its own separate resolution this morning, and what we brought in was a flat mill for this. In the past, the commission has approved some mill increases because historically this local service has been subsidized by the public works budget. As you guys have discussed in the past, and discussed this just very shortly with the new commission members, we were a township system in the 1950s. The county converted to a county unit.
One second. Which one are we on?
Local service.
Local service. That's this one right here. Okay.
So as Commissioner Dove commented this morning, this is a budget that is funded by those folks outside of the incorporated areas. And in the 1950s, when the county decided to go from a township maintenance system, these are township taxes. When we became a county unit system 60, 70 years ago, what occurred at that time was that we became that county unit system without dissolving the taxation system of the township system. And that requires a ballot measure. So until there is a ballot measure, it is my understanding from what I have been told and what we have received from research, that this budget will remain in place. It is supposed to be fully self-sufficient, and it is becoming more so over time. But we did go revenue neutral. Revenue neutral.
Bill, I think you need to clarify. It's not revenue neutral. It's a flat mill levy.
No,
Revenue neutral would require.
on the line items within the commodities, we did. As a budget, we went a flat mill levy. From the line item perspective, we brought the same amounts across because we have had those cost savings measures in the past year and a half with the trap rock, and we have transferred some of that into the capital outlay to the 220 fund. But from a commodities perspective, which is what we're looking at, the commodities we brought across year to year.
So that's where we're realizing our savings is in the way you're being able to.
Yes, we're putting the additional mill levy funds for the flat mill. Obviously, we have some increases in salary of 2% that were factored into the personnel, but the vast majority of the funding from the mill increase is also going to. So, from a commodities line item perspective, we went revenue neutral, but we went because of the increase in the cost of the equipment, which this fund pays for the road graders. We have put all of the funding additional towards that because we have to make up ground or we're going to run out of money in the future without additional funding. So we use that savings to offset that. I don't know if the board has any questions about the local service budget.
Commissioners? Okay,
Thank you for all your hard work.
No problem.
we do appreciate it.
So then in the public works budget, very much like the local service budget, is primarily from a line item perspective. The increase is sat down in the into the equipment reserve transfer for funding the equipment. In 2021, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mark can correct me, it was 2022, but we had a reserve fund that had an equipment at that time that was fairly substantial and had the opportunity to use some of those planned equipment reserves and change that line item through the budget process to fund some bridges. And so it had historically, we have spent some of those reserves down to where we can fully fund that line item and get it back more in line with the true cost of the equipment and the depreciation and lease schedule. And so through the Public Works Department, you'll see a lot of folks come in today and tomorrow that we manage the fleet. So within this Public Works budget, we have a fleet operations manager, and so we work with all the departments for the purchasing of their vehicles and go through that process. But it is not that is not included in the overall Public Works budget. Each department has their own lease schedule for the leases that they may be needing for their equipment and also their vehicles. And so we did a across the board. The one exception to that that I do note is the bridge inspections. Historically, we paid more than $50,000 for bridge inspections, but bridge inspections, the last two cycles when we've used the turnip seed have come back in around $45,000. And so next year is our biannual bridge inspection, so every other budget cycle we do need to fund that line item in order to pay for the bridge inspections. We have had a lot of turnover in personnel. Personnel has been a real cost to the county in the Public Works budget. We have had 4 employees in the last month, or the last 3 weeks really, quit for pay increases, and we've had a foreman who had requested a demotion into an operator position. And we will be coming back with whatever budget is approved in the future, and we're going to have to address some of these shortfalls in our funding of our personnel, our salaries. Just in the last few days, we've been looking at them very hard because of the fact that we are losing so many employees all the time, and it's
Are those graders or operators or a specific type of,
These are
salary?
operators. These aren't graders. Well, I take that back. We did lose a grader, operator in the last 2 weeks to more money. And so they're really across the board, from dump truck drivers to equipment operators to road graders.
but heavy equipment operaters, we're losing them?
We're losing them all the time in that 2 to 4 year range of when they're pretty well.
They got experience. They can move
They
on.
got their experience in. They've got their time in. They have their CDL.
How far below are we, neighboring counties?
We are below well, we're below most of the neighboring counties. We'll be bringing back a presentation that is more specific, but we are below pretty much. I was pretty surprised because we have done some fairly substantial measures in the past. Part of the issue, and I'll be real brief about this because we'll be trying to address this within our budget as much as possible. But some of the issue is it's not necessarily we're getting candidates. It's not the recruitment. We hire folks in at the same starting wage as a union position. The issue is that in like their labor agreement at the union, your increases that are laid out within years 1 through 3 or years 1 through 4, depending if you're on the Kansas and Missouri side, outpace ours by 150, 200%. I mean, you don't keep up. We have tenured employees of decades who aren't at the tier 2, year 1 completion of a union employee, and it's not the recruitment, because we addressed that by raising the starting pay over the few past years. But once you're within the system and within the pay scale, there's no escalation of that pay at a rate that's competitive with any of our neighboring counties. Now, I shouldn't say any, because to the north in Atchison County we're competitive, but we have fallen behind Jefferson County, it appears, and Douglas County, and they are putting forth 4%, 7% raises in those counties, and we have fallen behind the private sector in every category pretty much. I mean, I'll be bringing back a comprehensive report, but I had an employee leave for a warehouse job with a substantial raise of more than $10,000 in health benefits. And so it is a problem that if we want to retain employees, we're getting good employees, we're recruiting good employees, we're bringing people in, we're training them. But if we want to retain our employees, what we see a lot of, and I don't have the specific numbers in front of us, is we have tier 1 KPERS employees who are working very quickly their way to retirement, who've been here decades, and are going to have their 85 points within the next 3 or 4 years. We have a solid group of those employees who are great. We have a lot of employees below that tier 1 group that would have started sometime before 2009, when tier 1 ended, that has had a tremendous amount of turnover. And so we have a good group of guys out there working all the time, but we are continuously training folks. And retention is really the key to, I believe that we've had a different person on the distributor for chip and seal every season that I've worked here. And so it's one of those things where you're putting down millions of dollars worth of oil. And I know Commissioner Culperston had this issue in one of his roads. We had, I believe, a dozen dump truck drivers who had never pushed snow when we had snowfall last November, or whenever the first snowfall was. So you're putting individuals in a $380,000 piece of equipment that have no experience because of the turnover that we've had in the past. And they've been trained, but until you've done it and you have that experience, it's very. They did a great job. They're hardworking guys, and we didn't have a lot of accidents. We had a couple tip over in the ditches, but not a lot of damage. Nobody got hurt. It was pretty successful. But that's what we're facing from a personnel perspective. We'll be coming back, and I'll be working with Mark to try to develop some sort of new system within our operating budget at a flat mill, if that's what's approved, that tries to address some of that because we are spending a lot of money and a lot of resources training folks and providing them the CDL training for future careers, not at the county.
Okay. Any questions? Everybody?
I just think you're doing a good job. Just hope you know that, and especially all the grants that we've gotten for all the roads, and I just keep telling people, in the past 5 years we've paved more roads than the previous 30 years. It's been a good
All
thing.
on the south end of the county.
Not all.
Mike, Jeff, I think, where's that next one?
You set yourself up for it. You set yourself up.
When is Jeff's being done? Jeff's Road.
It's being done right now.
I say, since you brought it up,
First road in 25 years.
since you brought it up, the guys have done just an amazing job on 187th Street. It looks great. It rides smooth, and they're actually working their way up 191st Street today. And so, hopefully, by the end of the week, I don't.
It's
know exactly
fantastic.
how they.
Where's that located
191st.
North end of the county.
Where they have 2 cars a day.
Finally get to say
Oh
that.
my God.
at? And a motorcycle.
Finally get to say that.
Okay, enough of that. I just wanted to get
Shoot,
that
you got like 10,000 cars a day now because everybody's coming to look because they can't believe it. Like, what's this?
Okay. Anything else, folks? All righty.
We will have to
Thanks.
work on those salaries because with our health insurance increase, we can't go backwards in their total pay for a year. So
Say that again.
we had increases in our health insurance expenses. So we have to make sure the salary increase is enough that they actually get a raise over above the health
In other
insurance.
words, if the health care costs more than what you make.
Well,
right now,
considering the amount of money that we pumped into his department, I think we should be able to do that.
Okay.
What?
Last year we increased a full mill for
We're still $4 million short.
but we just increased
I
a
went to Bridges, but we'll,
Okay.
full mill.
We all good?
Oh, by the way, let's just talk about that for 30 seconds. We've been increasing. So we had a gap, but for the new commissioners, how many years ago? 3 or 4 years ago, you told us we were on our maintenance and maintaining the roads. We were X% behind, and we have put money in. How far behind are we now, or where are we at? Are we headed in the right direction?
I think that was probably 6 years ago. I think we came up with that number. And I would say today we're probably exactly the same amount behind just because of inflation.
yeah,
We're just barely keeping up with inflation.
Well, but we did fund a lot. Last year, we increased a full mill for.
The last 2 years the commission did, really outstanding. We added over $2 million a year to Bill's budget over the last 2 years. But that was
doesn't
catching
keep
up
up.
with the years before that we really didn't do anything. And then some of the savings that Bill had adds another $1 million in there
Yeah.
to help with these projects. But, bridge prices have almost doubled in some instances. The cost of equipment's more than doubled. So
The point is, we're making a strong effort
doing a great
to
job
fund
of
these
trying
roads.
To keep up. We're to keep our head above water, but we really probably haven't eroded away at that deficit. We still have chip seal projects that we know are coming up that are not part of the CIP.
yeah, we still have mill and overlays that aren't being funded, deferred maintenance on asphalt roadways.
Well, there's
I-
not an
we've-
unlimited
we have
amount of
funded-
funding.
We have funded the
You started this, Blake.
We have really increased funding in the CIP, but from a deferred maintenance and maintenance perspective, we have not really increased that. We've really put our funding towards keeping the bridges all replaced and doing projects that have matching grants and safety projects. But yeah, we definitely can continue to try to squeeze everything we can out of the maintenance fund.
Any more loaded questions? Okay, we're done. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Mark, 12:45, or you want to?
12:45.
Okay, 12:45, we will get back together and start the other ones.
Okay,
Let's get started. Information technology, welcome, young man.
Good to be here. I'm ready to answer any questions you have. You'll notice our budget request is a 13% increase over 2025. Most of that increase is presented in contractual services, which would encompass the new Exchange subscriptions, the ArcTitan email archiving subscriptions, as well as an increase to the Patriot maintenance that's gone up. So there's where most of the increases are coming from. There's also a nominal increase in personnel because we expect some personnel changes to happen next year.
Yeah.
Some welcome personnel changes.
We're at one for sure.
Yes, one for
Sitting
sure.
right next to you, I think.
You're going to be on the
Those of
beach.
you that are not aware, Larry has been with the county for over 20 years,
Yes,
and he has set his retirement date for next year.
correct. April 1st, April Fool's Day, I will not be here anymore. The fool will be at
Fitting.
large.
It's only fitting with your jokes. You're right. You're right.
Flip flops and Bermuda shorts.
Who knows? Could be anything. One thing it won't be is here worrying about anything going on at the county. I will not take the podium immediately. I'll wait a year or two. And then do the honorable thing and come back and complain when you're doing the IS budget for 2029 or something, and I'll come back and roast the commission on how it used to be.
Please wear a hat and dark shades.
I will try to dress appropriately.
Okay.
Are we working on that policy to deny retirements?
Nah. No, you are
That's
not.
right.
No, you're not working on that policy. That would not
I
be
like
fun.
that, Vanessa. That's a good idea. Any questions on this?
I just had a couple questions about any alternatives to any of these. $8,000, is that the best we can do for email archiving?
It was the best that we could find that does what we needed to do. We just researched that not 6 months ago. So that was the best then. Now, I don't think you would want to change that on a yearly basis, but the option is available to change if, let's say, their price increases go ridiculous. You could start looking for another solution. It's a one-year agreement that we're trying to hash out. Right now, we haven't signed a contract because the legal departments are still debating verbiage between our county counselor's office and theirs. They're hashing out some things I know nothing about. But it will be a yearly agreement. Should they come to terms, you could change whenever you want. The only other savings that was found was I reduced our Cisco maintenance a significant amount from 21,000 down to 4,800 to try to minimize that, which offsets some of the increase. But we can't go any lower than that. Most of our budget is composed of things that are just absolutes. You fund it 100% or you just don't do it at all.
Yep.
There is no, give me 90% of that and we'll get something done. It's you pay for it all or you do nothing.
Is that multi-factor authentication services, that's just going to keep going up? Isn't it?
Oh, yes, that's the Cisco Duo, and that will just creep up everything will creep up every year.
A lot of the licenses they're built for that, so every year you normally see some type of an increase.
So they got us hooked, and now we're stuck.
Certainly.
Right, we're in the cloud now, so we're on
feel like I've been
Microsoft's architecture and their infrastructure, and so we beholden to
Microsoft.
Big companies.
Always do it.
Like
though.
everything. Everything's more expensive every year, right?
Well, I just no alternative. It doesn't look like.
Yeah. Any questions for him?
Anti-spam, that seems to be low.
Well, that's our Spam Titan service. It is relatively inexpensive, and that's one of the reasons we've used them for several years. It's not the best anti-spam in the world, but it does a decent job, especially at the price point. I've been exceptionally stingy
Good.
for many, many years. I've always tried to find really low-cost solutions, sometimes to the detriment, but If it does a good enough job, that's what I like to do. There are better solutions, and we researched better ones, but they come with a much higher price tag, so we've stayed with them. And that's been true of across the board. That's why the Exchange server we've been running on-prem for so many years, because it was the cost-effective way to get it done. I'm assuming Dave will continue my stingy attitudes going down the road.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Hey, Larry, one of the biggest line items you pay for under maintenance is the Patriot maintenance. Why don't you let them know what that actually is, because it doesn't really involve you.
It doesn't. The Patriot maintenance is the Patriot software suite. The county's ran forever, I think 30-some years. It does your tax in the clerk's office, your financial management, your budget tracking, and all of that. Handles the tax inside the treasurer's office. They integrate with that. Personal property is in there, oil and gas. There's probably another one or two I'm missing. It also gets the appraisal values on the website where people, if you've ever gone and looked at the county's GIS map and you clicked on a property and you saw the tax appraisal sheet and the tax payments, that's part of the Patriot software. Brings that data across onto a web front end for people. So it's basically the clerk, the treasurer's office, and the appraiser that integrate with that software package. It runs on a separate server called an iSeries that we host downstairs. We just replaced that in December. That thing cost us $36,000 or something like that. So it's an expensive server, very expensive maintenance, but it's the core application that all of your tax, distributions, collections, all of that stuff, that's the key piece that the county's been using forever. Since they first did it on a computer, I believe.
It is.
So they know no other way. I think we were looking 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whenever it was. Mark had tasked me with trying to find an alternate solution, and that was a nightmare. The next 10 months that I worked on that, I could find no alternate solution that does exactly what this does all in one package, because this was custom tailored for counties. So it meets, and he's nodding because he's fully aware of this, it meets exactly what we do. And when you look at what the other counties are doing, they have multiple packages, and they're having to do extra work in the middle to make data from this package come over to this one, and then they got to massage that to try to make it fit here. They've got a mess. What they have here is all right there in one little spot. It's expensive. It's ugly to people that don't like green screens, but it does exactly what we need. So it's really hard to go and move to something else. There's not a lot to choose from. You don't buy that stuff off the shelf.
So your budget on the training has kind of jumped up and down and up and down. What is the $9,000 pretty well set? You've got it set for
the budget request has been stable since we added it a few years ago, but we haven't spent it all each year. I think that might be what you're talking about.
I'm talking about it. Do you have room in your budget to take a $1,000 hit on that?
$1,000 hit. Well, I will say one thing. We leveraged that. That goes for staff, but we also started using that for the WISER security awareness training 2 years ago, I think it was. I started paying for that, and that's the awareness training that we invoke every year for all county employees, and then that the new employees go through. And that cost us, I can't remember. We spent a couple $3,000 for the WISER subscription out of that, but the original intention was for staff to benefit from that training, because we also do subscribe to a training site for staff that they could also use for other things like Cisco training or certification training, and then we reimburse them if they pass that kind of training. We haven't done a lot of reimbursements in the past, but it is nice to have that ability if a new employee, for instance, wants to go out and get some certifications that would benefit the county. We'd like to be able to reimburse them. So, yeah, you could take the $1,000, but
all right.
It is what it is, right? I mean,
I'm looking for every $1,000 I can find.
Anything else, Mike?
That's it.
Anybody else? Yep. Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, in that regard, Commissioner Stevens, being general fund, if we don't spend that full $1,800 per employee, it all comes right back to the general fund anyway. And traditionally, we haven't spent the full amount, I think. So you have gotten the thousands back usually each year.
I know, I'm just talking about for next year's budget.
Thought I'd throw that out there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Register of Deeds.
By the way, Mark, did we ever get the like where we are year to date?
I have it in my inbox right now.
Okay. Do you know on these budgets like where they're at?
Hi, Tara.
You don't.
No, I just got it.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon, Terry Lewis.
All righty. Your turn.
I was pleased to help the appraiser's budget achieve 6% under their 2026 target. When asked to pay $12,000 towards the annual aerial photography contract, I offered to cover the full $58,000 per year for 6 years to help reduce the general fund expenses. I'm also pleased to learn the actual cost to my office for all 15 contractual software products we use from Fiddler was $134 net in 2024 after subtracting the revenue from the contractual charges. Another positive aspect of my office to report is January this year, revenue for general fund was a tad over $38,000. In June, it was almost $74,000. Part of the change can be attributed to our recording of self-imposed biometric liens. After 4 years of searching for the best practices to fight property fraud, Leavenworth County is the first county government using biometric liveness camera technology in America. The process is this. The owner's face is voluntarily attached to their deed. Already in the first 2 months, we were able to warn 2 owners of upcoming recordings that would affect their property. We've never been able to pre-warn a homeowner. We've already recorded 3 liens just this morning. While protecting citizens' property and helping general fund are wonderful aspects of our service, it is time-consuming process that requires attention to detail, at which my current staff excels. This brings me to the next challenge. My office has endured some interesting staffing challenges over the past year. Due to unexpected events such as car wrecks, promotions, and medical issues, we are understaffed. Yet, by using IOC status to retain the knowledge base for staff relief and interns for special projects, we've kept up with office demands. However, I see the strain that the lack of full staffing is causing my current full-time crew. With the extra biometric liens and necessary time with citizens required, I need a full-time staff position as well as an IOC to adequately handle the uptick in our workload. We must pay market salaries to well-qualified candidates that don't need extensive training time. I've learned the hard lesson of cheapest employees are not always the least expensive in the long run. As I've warned in the past, part of the payroll taken from Rod Tech that meets specific statutory requirements would come to an end. Unfortunately, we are now back indexed 50 full years, so the slowed pace of back indexing is offset and more focus on our daily recordings. But this mandates less payroll can be paid from Rod Tech. So all payroll is back into general fund for 2026 for the version you are holding. However, after a brief email discussion with County Administrator late afternoon yesterday, I believe we can tweak the general fund payroll down a bit into the Rod Tech fund, but time did not permit for this to happen before this meeting. I'd like to state that the 2.8% increase target for payroll will be met. Travel costs continue to surprise me at their steep increases. The cheapest hamburger I could find on the menu at the last seminar was $25. If possible, I stay with friends and family to save hotel expenses. But statistics on fraud compel me to work even harder to network with other fraud fighters across the country. Stats like this: the projected spend in 2025 for fraud prevention is $1.5 trillion. Add to that figure 5% of the world's gross domestic product lost in completed fraud. But we can beat fraud, starting with strengthening our antiquated laws, extra travel for lobbying, and increasing print and postage costs to educate legislators for passage of new methods to stop notary fraud will help not only my constituents, but banks, title companies, realtors, and other aspects of the real estate industry. The extra work is worth the long-term benefits to not only Leavenworth County citizens, but all citizens in Kansas. Passports have again been moved out a year until the current open full-time position is hired. The additional revenue will require additional staff, as passports also are time-consuming. I will pause at this point and answer any questions you may have.
One of the things maybe I misunderstood, I look at the salaries from 2025 to 2026, not quite 100,000, but something like that. Is that the one you're talking about that you've been able to adjust? $100,000 is quite a bit.
So the adjustments I'm talking about is the split between general fund and the Rod Tech.
So they're not shown here.
They are not. I mean, this happened. I had a meeting with Congressman Moran's office over fraud issues and didn't even get emails about changes until late yesterday afternoon. I did work on my budget yesterday evening and have not had a chance to talk with the county administrator yet.
So in 2026, that's been cut in half, or what? I mean, taking down 50,000, or what are you looking at? I don't want an exact number because I know you haven't had a chance to do it, but that number is kind of high when we're trying to keep the taxes down. So I'm trying to make sure I understand that you've figured out a formula, and you're going to meet with Mark to make sure this is divided, or it doesn't come across like that.
Could we just have you come back when it's all done? I mean,
I would be
we're not
fine
going to
with
be
that.
we're not going to be able to make heads or tails of it right now.
Well, I can answer the question. My salaries in 2025 was $296,532, so 2.8% would be $304,834.
But we're targeting 2% on salaries.
2% on salaries, 2.8% overall. And some of those salaries came out of the Rod Tech Fund, the
Yes.
number that you're talking about.
Yes.
But what they're seeing is all of your salaries in the general fund. So it looks like there was a much larger increase. That's what he's asking.
Right, and
Are you
that's
going to say you're going to move something back to 10?
I cannot move as much as what was sent to me late last night, because Rod Tech, usage of Rod Tech is specific to the preservation of the document activity. And whereas we were doing 50% activity, sometimes it's one record in an 8-hour period.
Well, I think the problem we've got is not that you're not doing it, but when we get these numbers, and now we're trying to figure out.
We got to compare apples to apples.
Right. You need to really have you come back. So with your new numbers, Mark, if the other county commissioners feel that way, so I can read this a little clearer.
Yeah, could we just have you get together?
I like what you did, but we got to be able to compare the past years. So we need the same
Right,
format.
and so I'd like to reiterate, I stated this a couple of years ago. That was a temporary move, trying to help the general fund then. So at some point, those Rod Tech fee funds can no longer be used for payroll, and it comes back into payroll. So where I looked like a hero and I had 7% below, now I'm the bad guy because it's coming in, but it's payroll.
Well, I don't look at you as a bad guy. I'm just having a tough time following the numbers.
I just think you and Mark need to get together and then come back.
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. Commissioners, y'all okay with that? Mark? Sure. Okay. Thank you. I think we get a clearer thing on that there.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Treasurer. It's been waiting patiently.
I may need a little extra time, so this is perfect.
Okay.
Good afternoon. It's been a while.
Yep.
Does everybody have the packet I dropped in your
Yeah.
box. I have extra copies if you don't. I kind of want to use this information.
I can run out and get mine.
Do you need one?
I do.
Okay.
Or I could go get it.
We can share.
If I get in here, I don't know if it hit or not.
Okay.
No.
Willie needs
It's in
one.
your box, Willie. It's in my box, too.
Information here I want to use to go over where we're headed.
You bring yours,
Okay,
Vanessa?
you need one?
Vanessa and I brought ours.
You got yours?
Yeah, they were good students.
Jeff thought that. Don't give me that look, Jeff.
I brought mine. I was going to share.
All righty, go right ahead.
I got quite a bit I'd like to go over, so I'm going to try to talk as fast as possible. We'll start with the general fund, which is basically what we're here for today. If you look at page A, in the yellow highlighted portion, that's a decade of over and under budget amounts for the Treasurer's Office. As you can see, historically, the Treasurer's Office has generally been over budget. Right now, we're on track to be $20,000 to $25,000 below budget this year. So that would be the highest amount below budget in a decade. Because of that, there's really no reason to raise our budget. Even by keeping the same budget that we have this year, next year, it's heavily padded, and the office should come out under budget again next year. I did put a little synopsis about last year that you can read at your leisure to see what happened there. Yep. And then I also wanted to highlight on the very bottom row, you can see the tech fund expenses for the last decade. And if you'll notice that there's been quite a bit of money pulled out of that tech fund year after year. And if you'll look in 24 and 25, I've lowered that to about $1,500 per year. So that leaves a ton of money in the tech fund for actual technological needs in the future. That basically covers the general fund portion, if anyone has any questions.
What is that total amount that's in the tech fund right now?
I think it's around 41,000, if I remember correctly. I don't have that with me, but that sounds right.
So that tech fund doesn't show up on.
Yeah, tech fund's not a budgeted fund; it's a report fund.
Right. It's on the budget summary report. I can get that number if you like. I just don't have it with me.
Okay.
Any questions on that portion?
Commissioners?
Pretty clear.
Go right ahead.
Okay, the more important thing I want to talk about is the motor vehicle fund. And I know everybody loosely knows that there's a state funding function that allows us to run the tag office with state funds rather than ad valorem tax. There's currently a statewide problem with lack of funding for the motor vehicle office. Last year, they had Senate Bill 119, was in the Transportation Committee. I'll use this as an example. Sedgwick County. Sedgwick County's been running $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 that they've had to pick up with ad valorem tax to shore up the lack of funding in that office. This year, they're looking at $900,000, and their Board of County Commissioners said, "Hey, we're no longer going to use ad valorem tax to shore this up." And they presented that to the state. It went from the Transportation Committee to the Ways and Means Committee, and that's as far as they made it. So I'm not expecting to see any great funding coming out of the state anytime soon. They just can't seem to get anything done. So I wanted to show you where we're at as a county and how we're headed a little bit in that direction. So if you look at page B shows the last decade of personnel costs and also motor vehicle benefits. So we're a little bit unique in that 75% of benefits of our employees that work in the motor vehicle office is coming out of that motor vehicle fund, which is a large number. So if you look at the red box down in the bottom right corner, and even above that in 2022, in motor vehicle fund benefits that we pay out, there was a 20% jump in 2022. 2024 was a 6.5% jump. 2025, I'm projecting 17.2%, and that's based on real data by extrapolating what we're paying out right now. So putting a place mark there in your brain at these huge increases in benefit costs that are coming out of that fund, let's flip over to page C. Page C is the revenue that we're receiving into that fund. So I've got the data from 2016 to 2024. Prior to 2020, I can't come up with any logical reason where those numbers come from. So that's why I highlighted 2020 to 2024 so we can look at those numbers. In 2020, the funding in that went down 10%, and I think we can chalk that up to that was 2020. Nobody was working, and that's probably why we had the lack of funding. In 2021 was when the former treasurer raised the facility fee from $1 to $5, and that's where we see that 41% jump in funding in 2021. In 2022, we see a 2.25% decrease. There's no way to know for sure why that decreased, but I think we can assume that it was because of the fee going up, that a lot of people probably went to online renewals. But 23 and 24 is the more important numbers that I think are more realistic. In 23 and 24, the revenue increases in that fund were just under 0.5%. And I feel like that is a reasonable expectation of the growth of income in that fund going forward. With 2 years at just under 0.5%, I think that's what we can expect. So we can see that when we have these large percentage increases in benefits and then also personnel going up and 0.5% increase in funding, that we're headed to a bottleneck where we're going to have a problem. So if you want to go ahead and flip over to page D, the bottom line is where I did some extrapolations. In order to figure future revenue, I went with a 0.4% because I think that's conservative and reasonable. So when I do the 2025 and 2026 projected numbers, I went ahead and padded those for a worst case scenario. And then when I take that expected revenue with a padded conservative estimate of expenses, we're looking at the worst case scenario possibility being $13,000 underfunded this year and possibly up to $30,000 underfunded next year. So I kind of want to break that down into two scenarios. For this year, I'm currently holding $17,200 that was left over from last year. Normally, statutorily, we would transfer that to the general fund prior to June 1st. This year I held it until this meeting so we can discuss this as a possibility for this year. Since that money was not part of the budget for the county, my suggestion would be these numbers are going to have to be watched like a hawk, especially in the last quarter of the year, and I won't be here to watch them. So my suggestion would be to go ahead and hold that $17,200 in that fund to make sure that we don't go over this year. And then I can talk about what we could be facing in 2026. Okay.
So in your budget, is there a way that you figured that you could go ahead and resolve this right now?
Possibly. We're pretty far into the year, and that's what I was going to talk about as far as 2026. I'd have to put some numbers to it. Let's just go ahead and skip to 2026. So next year, and this is a worst case scenario number because it is really, really hard to estimate this revenue. Like even looking at it month to month between this year and last year, there's no rhyme or reason or pattern. We just know that historically the last couple of years it's went up about 0.5%. So by taking that as the only data I have available and extrapolating expenses over, that's my worst case number is $34,000. And what we want to avoid doing is using ad valorem tax to shore up this loss. We did recently lose an employee at the annex. I have an opening available. An employee moved to a different office in the county. If I don't fill that position, we wouldn't have a problem next year. But we would have a problem that we will be understaffed at the annex. One of the first thing to go when we're understaffed at the annex is driver's license processing. And it's not popular for the county, but we only get $5 for each of those registrations. That is purely a state function, and we're doing it as a courtesy to South County. Problem is, we're not only doing it as a courtesy to them, we have people from Johnson County and Wyandotte County coming over because they can get in and get an appointment quicker. My initial thought was, and I've got a stack of applications on my desk, was to fill a position at a very entry-level cost for a full-time person to just do driver's licenses. Secondary thought was to do the same thing, but as a part-time employee, because that would be a lower impact and we would still be providing that driver's license service. The third option is to not fill that position. But if we don't fill that position with 3 frontline clerks at the annex, we wouldn't be able to do driver's licenses. We'd be understaffed because their statutory responsibility is the tag office and collecting taxes. So if we have 3 clerks and you move 1 to driver's licenses because people call and it's busy, now you've got 2 frontline clerks, and that office does get busy. So I've wrestled with these numbers. I have burned up my calculator, and it's really hard to predict the future. Just like this year may squeak by. It's very possible it'll squeak by, and that 17,000 won't be needed. But I would be more comfortable in keeping it just in case, because we don't know what the income's going to look like through the fall. It's just too hard to predict. So what I'm wrestling with right now is, do I fill that position at the annex and we see how it goes? Do I fill it part-time, or do I eliminate the position? I don't want to be the one responsible for eliminating, a service in the county, but at the end of the day, I don't think we want to use ad valorem tax to short us up.
Hey, because we have a couple of new commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Let me just real quick so you understand. The motor vehicle fund is a standalone fund that the county commission actually has no control over. Statutorily, that is solely at the treasurer. So you don't have an obligation to shore it up, like Caleb was saying.
Right.
It's the treasurer's duty and responsibility to make sure that fund balances. What he's asking is that for some help in making it whole. Right. The 25% of the benefits that he's talking about, or the 75%, that's because 75% of his employees are allocated to the motor vehicle fund. 25% are allocated to the cash collection. So that's the difference. So I just want to make sure you understood that it's a separate fund. Normally, you wouldn't even talk about it during the budget because it's solely the treasurer's. But Caleb wanted to bring it to your attention because there's a potential for a shortfall going forward, which, technically, he is responsible to fix, not the Board of County Commissioners. Right. He has some proposals.
But I'm also
in the past. Yeah,
and if we close our eyes, we run this to zero, then we've got a cash basis.
Gotcha.
For several years, we have not made this transfer. We did it this year, or last year, excuse me.
Right.
But the transfer he's talking about is statutorily any money that's left in the motor vehicle fund at the end of the year is supposed to be transferred to the general fund.
Prior to June 1st.
So most years that never happened, just because they needed the money to stay whole. So I don't see an issue with what he's asking as far as leaving that money in the motor vehicle fund to help shore up this year and see where it goes next year.
Right. I just don't want to. I don't want to go hire an employee and walk out the door, and then all of a sudden nobody's paying attention, and you end up with a big problem.
The driver's license position he's talking about, that is not something we're required to do in any way, shape, or form. It's something that the county decided to do when we added the annex, I'm guessing.
Right.
And so it's actually a state function that the treasurer's office does for the state, and they do not reimburse us for it. The $5
a pop.
$5 we get, what's that generate, like $8,000?
So historically, the most we ever made in a year was about $20,000 off a driver's license. That was doing it, full time. That doesn't even cover the cost of half of an employee. Yeah. So we're subsidizing it. Right? We're not getting the benefit. It is just purely a service. Now, if this motor vehicle fund, if the state would do their job and provide the proper funding, we could absolutely do it because it would be fully funded by the state. It's their responsibility. But since they're stalling and not doing anything in Topeka to provide more funding to these counties, you have to cut somewhere.
I think we've talked about that a few times, not just in your area. Mike, did you have something?
Just a question. So this is under his discretion not to make the transfer. We don't have to do anything.
No, it's not under his discretion on the transfer. You have to decide not to make the transfer.
So do we have to have a vote?
I'm statutorily
it's
obligated.
Required. Yes, you would have to have a vote. It wouldn't be today. We would put it on the agenda. But Caleb had asked to wait until today so he could talk to you about it, and I agreed. And I think if you remember, I informed you that we were going to wait until
today.
So
I support that.
Yeah, I do too.
Let's go on.
So as long as we take a vote, there's not a consequence from...
No, because it's a board. So the transfer, the board can decide not to make the transfer. Technically, if you wanted to, you could transfer the money and transfer it back.
Right.
If you take a vote, we'll be fine.
I definitely don't want that office to be short-staffed because anytime there's anything going on out there, I get a ton of phone calls. So I want to make sure they have good service.
And I like to keep if at all possible, to keep the driver's license because people really appreciate it.
There's people call every day because since we've lost that employee and been understaffed, we've paused that temporarily because that's the first thing you have to pause. And I would like to get it going again, but I want to be very careful because I don't want to set the county up for a problem next year because there's no funding.
Right.
So I've really wrestled with these numbers to try to figure out how to make it work and also be staffed. So
Thanks for the heads up.
Right.
I'm not off the table. I just want everybody to know where we're at.
Jeff?
So a couple of years ago, the account that Willie brought up earlier, the Rural Road Fund, I forget what it's called.
Public service road.
So up until this commission, they've always been underfunded, and we always had to pull money out of the general fund to bail them out every year. So this commission finally said, we just need to fund that what it needs to be. So first thing before we changed what we did, I went to the treasurer at the time because I found out they can add up to a $5 service fee per transaction on vehicle tags. And I asked her, hey, can you add that $5 fee and we can divert that money toward the Rural Road Fund? She didn't know she could do that, and she found out she could. She went ahead and raised the $5, but she didn't give it to us for the road fund. So are you guys still charging the $5 on that?
We are, and honestly, outside of that, if you were just going to keep it in the motor vehicle department, I think that was a little steep all at once. I'd probably spread it out. But we have reached a point now where the expenses are climbing so fast that we hit a bottleneck, and it's just not going to do it.
It's not a lot, but
it's not going to.
Yeah,
it's not going to fund.
I just wonder if you're still.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's still there. I can't take it away.
Okay.
It's impossible at this point.
Yeah. Once you get it. Yeah.
Yeah, look, one of the other things I found interesting was when you talked about people doing it online, that actually doesn't reduce your work volume here.
No, that is fascinating, and that's typical of Topeka. When they set up that fee, that service fee that we can charge, that's up to $5, they made it for only people that are coming into the courthouse. And their idea was it would push people to online. Well, actually, if you do it online, it doesn't change the workload downstairs. They do the exact same thing that they would do as if you were at the window. They're just doing it. But the difference is now we have to put postage on it and mail it. So it actually costs us more in postage to do an online to mail it, but it's backwards. The people that are actually driving into the office are the ones that are paying the $5 fee. So if they'd have done it in reverse and made that a convenience fee for online, it might have even generated more money, and it wouldn't have cost us more money.
Makes
so
sense.
Their effort at providing funding just really wasn't ideal. And it's a very controversial thing anyway, because they were putting it on the treasurers to make the decision whether to charge more money. Now, being an elected position, that's not a popular thing to charge more money.
We know about stuff like that. Okay, any other questions on that?
Do you have plans about how you're going to do the transition to the new treasurer, or do you have a kind of
So I did create, when I came into office, I came into just an empty office. I have created a manual for distributions, and it has step-by-step instructions that I would have loved to have had. Be extremely helpful for someone that's trying to. It's not going to be easy. It's a very complicated process, but just having those computer instructions and fund numbers that you need to complete this thing. I mean, these things are a bear. So having that is going to be hugely helpful. And I'm going to leave. I've created a budget tracker, and it's pretty slick, but it's a way to see the budget throughout the year. You can see it by quarter, you can see it by year, you can see it by fund, and then it's a really easy way to extrapolate out and see where you're at so you make sure you're not going under budget. And I'm going to leave that as well.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there a transition time that you set aside when it's
Not technically. I mean, my last day, I believe, is October 10th, and then there's a holiday on a Monday, and then the next treasurer would come in that following day. I believe it's the second Tuesday in October, so there's really not. There's so much, even in a day, I couldn't explain. It's
Found
taken
out the
me-
hard way, didn't you?
It's taken me a long time to absorb to the point where I'm at.
Yeah, I remember your
now.
first day when you walked in.
It's the clerk and the treasurer's positions are very complicated and difficult.
Well, sometimes it's like the thing is, answer, I don't even know what question to ask, you know. Hey, you've done a good job. Okay, any other questions?
No, thanks a lot, Tatum.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to work out whether or not we're going to hire somebody, and I'm going to try to make the best decision I can. But it would behoove everyone to make sure that we are keeping an eye on this fund like a hawk, especially next year. So if any adjustments need to be made, they can be made before it's a problem at the end of the year.
Right.
And I do see this being a bigger problem each year, because if our funding is only going up 0.5% a year, and obviously our benefits and our pay are going to go up more than that, we're going to see this number get bigger that we're lacked in funding. So
Really, the only way to address that is in Topeka,
the solution is
or we have to increase local property tax.
That's right. Because you would have to shift a part of those benefits, or instead of going 75-25, you would have to maybe go 60-30. So you'd have to shift that into ad valorem tax, which is it's the state's job.
You said that like you kind of expect them to actually fix it.
Oh, I don't think that.
Okay.
I don't think that.
Because I'm like, that ain't going to happen.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
Oh, we're not holding our breath.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
It was good to see you, everyone.
Appreciate the spread on that.
Absolutely.
Let us
Anything,
know.
let me know.
All righty. Thank
Have a great
you. EMS. Come on down, Jamie. I know.
Commissioners, presented the EMS budget. And the EMS budget reflects a 2% increase. Of that 2% increase, 86% of that is personnel services. Remaining 14%, half of that is the equipment reserve, which is ambulance replacement costs, medical equipment and such. The other 7% represents operating costs for EMS. Overall, the significant increases, if you want to look outside of just the personnel services, we did play catch up a little bit for this year with the equipment reserve, because last year we weren't able to put the additional costs in there as we were addressing the new pay scale for EMS. So by catching up this year with that, it's going to put us on target to be able to complete ambulance purchases and such moving forward. Entertain any questions?
Commissioners, any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it was. If there's not, then we'll move on to the Health Department.
This is the Health Department budget that I presented is actually a reduction budget.
I saw that.
We did reduce the budget because, again, we analyzed personnel services and also some of the grant functions and revenue that is coming through. So recently, we made a decision to combine an individual that left a position and those responsibilities and moved it over to an individual that was already working for me that was an aide to that program, now took over the SPEP responsibilities as well. So that position is what the reduction basically reflects throughout the Health Department budget. So overall, it's a reduction of about 1.9% overall budget from current year to next year. So it's a reduction budget, not an enhancement budget, even with the 2% for current staff.
Yeah, I marked it in yellow. Questions? Something goes down. We don't want to question too much.
I got a question.
Oh, you would.
User fees. Can you explain those, or what you're pulling in the
On EMS or
yeah, this line item.
They both have
the user fee line item on under 743. Last page of the Health Department.
that is if there's co-pays, if there's administrative fees, anything that is required for us that we can collect in revenue that's required by grants or such, we do have user fees. TB skin tests, we have a lot of schools or jobs that are looking for TB skin tests that have requirements, daycares, things of that nature that need TB skin tests that need to be done. Any sort of fee collection that we can collect to make up revenue in regards to services we provide in the health department.
So you came in a little low on that one as far as the actual in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
What is our actual? Are we on track on 2025?
We're moving. Yes. One of the other things this year we hired a new coder out of the health department. He's doing a phenomenal job. I've seen over the last 3 months we've collected about $9,000 or $10,000 a month each of those months. So that's playing catch up. In regards to that, again, it fluctuates on what walks through the door, on what we can collect in user fees. It depends on what's there, but we are seeing a steady increase on what we're collecting.
You're going to come close to that number.
Correct.
And then can you go through the grants here, what all those are?
So what you're seeing on, I believe it's page 3 of that is in the grant requirements, that is actual dollars that come through that have to be spent towards the grant. In the grant is paying that we pay it and it's a reimbursable, but we have to show it as a separate line item so it's trackable specific to those grants. So for MCH, we have allocated $6,000 towards the KU contract. The family planning is the $29,500, which are clinical expenses as well as the KU contract. WIC has anything outside of personnel services, so any of their materialistic commodities or contractuals, Procrio, which is the translation fees and things like that. That's what that money is spent for. The Teen Pregnancy Maintenance Initiative, it went down because, again, there's some changes in the grants and what is being allocated to us, so that went down for program expenses for that, as well as FEP. It used to be $7,500, it went down to $5,500, but again, with FEP, that's radio maintenance, fuel, preparedness style money out of the health department.
Any big capital expenses you see in the next 5 years?
We do have a purchasing schedule, and I have copies if anyone. I have it for both departments if you want to see those. But there's nothing significant. We really did with some of our COVID dollars that came through. I replaced all of the IT out at the health departments, all new computers, all new phone systems, and things of that went in. We did remodeling with some of that money. We did the parking lot repaving out there. So realistically, some of the items that are on over the next even 3 to 5 years are small, not necessarily large. We're talking about replacing some of the exam tables that are probably out of the early 90s that probably need to be replaced and such, but they're on the schedule and the money's there to be able to provide that.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Vanessa.
I had talked with Jamie last week. I think potentially an unintended consequence of losing Cushing is that Leavenworth is stuck in the St. John's Providence nightmare, I'll just say. So I want to see that our EMS does not decline to take someone somewhere else than St. John, and whatever that looks like, I think that we need to make sure it's funded enough to make sure it's possible. Hopefully at some point Leavenworth can get back to a better hospital system within Leavenworth and more than one option like we used to have, but until that comes, or for the foreseeable future, we have to have better health care than what we have right now, with the option of St. John being the only place that we can take people to. So,
yeah, we when they're picked up, they're given the opportunity to go, unless it's an emergency or something. I mean, they can choose a hospital, can't they?
Not necessarily. it's the closest appropriate facility is what has to happen a lot of times. And again, as we've talked about before, the amount of ambulances we have within the county is only 5. And when we go all the way to KU or we go all the way to St. Luke's or Research or wherever we want to go, that's taking those ambulances out of Leavenworth County for 45 to an hour when there's another emergency and they could have been seen at a closer emergency room. And we've talked about this before. And when I visited with Commissioner Reed, I'd be more than happy to take people. But we're going to need more ambulances on the street to be able to be ready for those next calls that happen.
And my request was that we make sure we fund at a level where we can at least go as far as the Legends, because then we at least have the opportunity to be in the St. Luke system versus Providence. So that's what I was discussing with him.
If it's an emergency situation,
You're still mandated to take them to the closest.
Correct. It's also insurance guidelines. Some of the other problems, and I shared this as well, insurance guidelines, you have to, in an emergency from a scene, you have to go to the closest appropriate facility. And the issue is when you bypass other facilities, even if it's choice, the insurance company can come back. And we have these conversations with the constituents when we pick them up. You may get the bill because your insurance company may come back and deny the entire bill. They may deny half the bill.
Okay.
And that becomes a problem as well down the road. They say, well, wait a second, why did I get charged? And we have to deal with those phone calls as well through the billing side when we took them.
Have you had that happen?
Oh,
Yes.
How typical is that?
Very typical.
Quite frequently when somebody demands, I will go to KU or I will go or I won't go at all, and we take them, we bill the insurance company, we get the denial, and then they're mad because we ended up having to bill them because of our insurance company, and now they're
So we have this St. Luke's. It's not a full hospital, but it's it's an ambulatory surgical center, or what, I don't know what they're qualified with, but it's quasi hospital.
Right.
It's actually closer than Providence.
Correct.
And it would be right now. That would be an option, right?
Correct. If that's the closest facility and somebody wants to go to that, we do go to that hospital. I think what Commissioner Reed is referring to is when you're coming out of Leavenworth, St. John's would be the closest facility.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to.
Okay.
And wants the option.
So in the South County, I hear the same complaint that people are saying, we don't want to go to Providence. We want to go to X hospital or Y hospital.
Right.
Same thing, just at whatever's in close proximity. But I suppose this St. Luke's option there would be an option.
It is an option.
It's an option.
Yeah.
And we run into it as well in Tonganoxie. If you really, there's certain streets that Lawrence is closer than Providence, and we get into that whole.
Yeah, that's really kind of.
But insurance, unbelievably, they will come in and almost do this house versus that house.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
If they were given an option of finance, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But that's not what's happening. They're just being told, no, you're going to St. John. And if St. John was capable of taking care of my dog, that'd be fine, but they're not. So I'm going to continue to push to make sure that we have better options.
Okay. Anything else, Jamie? Jeff?
what
You
about
got,
this-
go ahead, Jeff.
So it's been about a month since we had a meeting with our Fort friends over funding the ambulance service on post. Have we heard any more out of them?
We have not. I believe Colonel Walker was working on some research, and she was going to provide us with a brief report. We have not seen that yet.
Okay, could we have staff, somebody reach out to them, her?
I'll email the Colonel and see if she
Okay. I think we need to do at least a monthly
Check on.
correspondence with
I think
them.
she said 30 to 45 days from that meeting, so I was kind of waiting for the 45-day mark.
Yeah, because it's
When's
been a
the
little
letter
over
expire?
30. And because I've dealt with them for 3 years now on this, and I know how it goes. She'll be gone in 6 months, and then
Yeah,
we'll be
we
dealing
talked
with a
about
new
that, too.
person.
They're up against the wall, though, because
I
that
know.
agreement runs out in September. So
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
they'll get there.
Okay, we good? Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, it's okay. I had planning and zoning come over because we were
Yeah.
a little bit out of schedule. I wasn't sure.
Come
if
on up,
Jamie
John.
could make it. The other Jamie. She did, but if it's okay, we'll have John go now. That'll
Yeah.
Free up time at the end of the
Planning and zoning.
He's towards the end.
Hey, John.
Commissioners.
Give him a second.
Mr. Jacobs.
He's like second from the end or third from the end.
Yep.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I'm here to basically answer questions. I'm holding static with the proposed.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, I think I've heard that before. Go ahead, John.
I'm holding static to the approved 2025 budget. I've carried that over to 2026. The only increase that you'll see is your 2% cap on salaries. That's the only addition that I made to this budget this year. Currently, for the 2025 budget, we're at 48% expenditure, so we're right on track where we should be, and we're at 60% of our revenue generation. So I'd say we are where we need to be in that budget.
Questions for John?
Question? We've talked about code enforcement and that kind of thing. Where are we at on that, and where does that stand?
Most of those cases have been taken care of with the addition of the new county counselor. So we have very few that are still out there pending. We've restarted a couple of those cases. They're going to be long-term issues that we're going to have to deal with legal, but most of those that were long-standing have been addressed.
That's all I have.
Any other things? Kept the numbers low in check? Any questions?
Good to me.
Do you have any room in your training schedule to make any adjustments?
That training budget is very tight. It typically is allocated for a single individual for one. Let me pull that up.
In 2024, you had 5187, and now we're budgeted up to 10,000.
Let's see here.
They spent that amount. They budgeted the same amount. But yeah,
Right.
I get what you're saying.
Well, the projection is 10, and then you're budgeting still for 10.
Right. The training of staff in that particular category is only $2,000. The rest of this is program mileage for planning commission. Travel, that $3,500, that is for a single individual in the entire department to go to a conference or a training opportunity. Currently, we have one getting a certified public manager's certification out of that budget line item. Convention registration, should someone decide to go to a conference, that's what that registration component would be. So I'm leery to pull back on any of that funding, since really it's programmed for a single individual out of the department. Minor education for planning commission, that's $600 allocated per year.
But no room for any cut?
Not in my opinion, no.
He was going to ask anyways, not to everybody.
I understand.
So we appreciate that, Mike. Any other questions? I think it's a good budget. Thank you, John.
Hey, John.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll come down to community corrections. Come on down.
You're the next contestant.
Hopefully everyone had lunch and is in a great mood.
Are we going to lose our lunch, Dad?
Sorry I didn't bring my donuts this year.
I knew everybody's going to eat you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Well, this year my narrative is a little bit longer. I did include a lot of historical information so that the two new commissioners this year kind of understood why my budget over the last few years, according to this document, looked kind of all over the place. So hopefully I explained that and there's no questions.
I have a question.
Sir.
I'm surprised.
You have mandatory detentions for certain juvenile offenses and previously did not require detainment due to changes in legislation. What are the changes in legislation that are requiring mandatory detention, or what's been the change that's moving the detentions up?
Well, in 2017, when they did the juvenile reform bill, Senate Bill 367, they implemented a Kansas Detention Assessment Instrument, and based on where you score and certain offenses, you're not automatically detained. Over the past, 8 years, we've determined, one, there's some of these we kind of rolled back too far on the reform, and I think the greatest example of that is having a firearm as a juvenile was not detainable in and of itself. Seems problematic. If a kid has a gun, things can escalate very quickly. law enforcement, judicial orders, courts, we all wanted overrides if a juvenile offender has a firearm. Previously, for you to be detained because you had a firearm, you also had to basically pistol whip someone or shoot it off at an occupied dwelling in the commission of a crime to be detained. There were also other things that communities had, just judicial blanket overrides. If there was a victim in the home, we're going to detain you. If there's gang involvement, we're going to detain you. So, they're kind of correcting for some of the initial
So they reformed a little bit
overcorrections.
too far.
Yes, it's learning. And because of that learning curve, and then when we went from the top 4 states with incarcerated juveniles, we spent an extreme amount of money on out-of-home placements, incarcerations, and our outcomes for kids and their futures was not any better off than states that didn't have nearly as much incarceration or out-of-home placement. So when they redirected, we went from having some of the longest probation terms in the country to having the shortest, the number one shortest probation terms in the country. And with that, we're never sanctioning them with jail. Well, some of these kids need to go back to detention to be reminded of why they don't want to go to the juvenile correctional facility in Topeka. So they also are now allowed to detain youth for sanctions on regular probation. So I don't think anyone disagrees with why that's necessary. It's just, there's a related expense.
Ratcheted it up.
Yeah. And through between 2017 and I think even in 2021, many, if not most, of the juvenile detention centers across the state of Kansas were closed because you went to manning a 24/7 juvenile facility with multiple shifts, with multiple people and supervisors, and the costs of feeding, clothing, and offering medical treatment to these youth and maintaining these facilities was astronomical. Now there's only 7 facilities in county facilities across the state. And as the increased need for detainment for out-of-county youth has increased, you're now seeing price gouging. So I'm super invested in my local sheriff election where I live in Wyandotte County because he has been very grateful and generous to Leavenworth County and has never increased our day per youth fee. We're only paying $150 a day per youth. Douglas County is already at $300 a day per youth, and Shawnee County is charging $500 a day per youth. So if someone else gets elected,
motel.
Yeah, then of course all of the costs can go right back up. So it's
why is Shawnee charging $500 a day?
They see Sedgwick and Shawnee see a lot of the Western Kansas individuals. Basically, everyone. If Junction City, if their facility is over capacity, people, they're up in Shawnee County, but it's Sedgwick County, Shawnee County, Johnson, Wyandotte, Douglas, Junction City. I don't know what county they are.
Right. Is that right?
Because they can.
So is that a moneymaker for them? Is that what the deal is?
I think it, I don't know what their overhead costs are, but I know that when I got here and I started to get the daily pop report and Mark was like, we might close the detention. I was like, no kidding. Because I think, if you don't have kids, it's a problem. But I also think these bigger communities, they have the need for that. We typically only have 1 or 2 that are in long-term detention. The rest just kind of go there and are catch and released, and then they're in court. But I also say that, last year we went way over budget, and I just got the bill for June. We paid that and just paid $17,000. So
The long and short, though, is it's still way cheaper than running a 24-hour facility.
Oh, yeah.
And not even in terms of cost, also like the liability to your community and all of the things that go on. I mean, Wyandotte paid $26 million to update their GDC and reconstruct it because of all the new federal regulations. So I think you also have to have the funding to be proactive on the front end of what they're doing. So.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, we didn't talk about, well, I always like when you're here to mention how your program helps with recidivism for these folks. Can you talk about that for just a minute?
Yeah, I mean, community corrections, like our whole goal is to assist in public safety and long-term community outcomes. If prison worked for most offenses, we wouldn't still continue to see the crime that we do. A lot of it's related to mental health and addiction and trauma, and a lot of it is generational issues that you've seen. And we try to hold them we do hold them accountable for what the court orders for them to do while they're in the community. And we reduce those barriers by paying for things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to pay for, whether it's GED programs or helping them get their vital documents so they can become employed with their Social Security card and birth certificates, or getting them mental health treatment or medication co-pays. And we do all of that through grant funding, and we offer on-site evidence-based programs. We're audited to make sure that we're doing stuff that research says is effective in our communities, and has good long-term outcomes and helps address those criminal thinking errors that helps people justify and kind of spiral into their behavior, so we can break those patterns.
Anything else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Contractual services, I see you projected in 2025. It was projected at 32,000, and the budget was 32,476. For 2026, there were 250,000.
So every year in contractual, I budget for our stipends to pay for 24.
I think what he's pointing out, Jamie, is that you moved what used to be under commodities was the housing for the juveniles, and you moved it to contractuals.
Yeah.
So it makes the contractuals look like it went up a lot, but if you look at the line right below it, that line went away. So it balances out. That's
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, I just moved it because I didn't like it under commodities.
Yeah, that was
I budgeted
shocking to me when I first saw it. I called Jamie immediately, as a matter of fact.
He's like, you better outline that. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Nope.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Aaron. Building sewer districts. And after this one, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Good afternoon, 20 minutes.
Where would you like to start? You have Cushing, Justice Center, courthouse, general fund that covers the rest of the buildings, as well as the sewer districts. Sewer districts would be the fastest. The only one that saw an increase was Highcrest.
Well, let's look at sewer districts real quick.
The only reason Highcrest saw an increase is grinder pumps have doubled in cost over the last 5 years.
What kind of homes?
They have grinder pumps.
Grinder pumps, okay.
Yes, sir. And when I first started, grinder pumps were right about $1,800. Now a new grinder pump for us to have it serviced, and that is right around $3,200. We've tried to keep the cost as low as possible. Last year was one of those times that it barely squeaked by if it didn't squeak by, so this year it had to see a slight increase, roughly 70 some homes out that way. We'll see a slight increase in that is directly paid for by the sewer district itself. The other sewer districts, two of them are pass-throughs. By pass-throughs, they come through and we pay directly on the debt. So we collect the funds, and the debt money gets paid on that directly. All of these are special assessments. So sewer districts are paid for directly by the people in the sewer districts. It is not full county paying for it. It is only the sewer districts and the occupants of those. The only one that saw an increase was Highcrest.
Thank you.
These require an extra public hearing. Anytime we increase the fees, we have to have a special public hearing for that. So the one that he's talking about, we will have a public hearing. It's the first time in...
I've been here 7 years. We've never increased it. Before that, I'm not sure
these
when he
probably haven't had an increase in 10 years, so you might see some of them when we send notice that they're going to get a public hearing.
But it's directly related to that entire subdivision sits on grinder pumps and the cost of grinder pumps. And the
Doubled.
10-year span had doubled, yes.
It's just paying their way.
Correct.
That's about it.
This isn't, there's no profit towards it.
Yeah.
It's directly.
Covers the bills, that's it.
You cannot levy a tax on the county to pay for a sewer district. Statutorily, they must fund themselves.
Yep.
You can't transfer money in, you can't levy a tax. It has to be a special levy only on those properties.
Okay, that one's good, I think, unless there's any more questions on that one.
Cushing, Justice Center, or the courthouse? Which one would you like to move
I
to?
think the special building is the first one, which is courthouse, right?
Courthouse. Okay, special building.
Looking around.
This one remains flat.
Yeah.
If you look at that, the courthouse special building covers not only the courthouse, but it also covers our items for EMS, 3 EMS stations, transfer station, annex, and the county shop buildings. The cost on that one we tried to keep as flat as possible, also due to the fact that we had a mill increase for the exterior of the building.
Commissioners, if you look on that one, the bottom line under the special building as capital outlay has $880,000. That is the basically the roof, and it will be the rock and everything else that we're
The exterior of the
That's
building.
why you see it as a new line item. That's what that is for. The total cost is going to be significantly more than that. It's just we will pay for it out of our reserves and then refund the reserves at a rate of $880,000 a year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is that contract on the roof, or that's still out, right?
Yeah.
The contract on the roof is almost complete. The only thing that's left is a skylight. We're still waiting on that to be delivered. It had been delayed 30 days. The contract for the exterior of the building, we will be presenting options after we do a bid opening, and those options will be either the GFRC option with a copper or a copper-like patina on the roof, and then terracotta. You'll have the choice, and we'll break it down to you exactly on what each one costs and what the tax credits would look like and the total cost of the building's exterior on that.
But both in compliance with the historical.
Everything would be in compliance so that we would qualify for our historical tax credits. Yes, sir.
No question? Okay, move along.
Justice Center? I'm not sure.
Cushing's
Cushing,
next.
yeah.
Mainly everything at Cushing, the increase was contractuals. You'll see a large increase on the fire extinguishers. This was due to the fact that we have an internal insurance audit, which basically our insurance company sends somebody out and they make recommendations, not that we 100% have to follow them, but it could affect our prices. They wanted increased fire extinguishers. Any office that carries 3 or more employees, they would have access directly to a fire extinguisher. This increased our usage in our buildings on how many fire extinguishers we had to service, and that will directly affect it. The other one you saw a price increase on is our water loop testing. Our water loop goes directly towards all of our building systems, so the water loop testing makes sure that the pipes that run hot and cold water through all of our stuff does not deteriorate on the inside, or at least it keeps it from deteriorating on the inside, which causes clogs on your pumps, everything else. Pretty much, other than that, everything was contractual increases.
So kept it pretty low. Any questions? Okay, let's go to Justice Center.
Justice Center, just like Cushing,
spell
pretty much
justice?
everything you'll see in there was a contractual increase.
Michael, is that how you spell justice?
Who wrote that? They're just testing.
J-U-C-T.
It's a test.
Jutis. Where's that located? Is that across the street? Okay.
The one South 3rd Street.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at you.
They're looking at something else.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, Aaron. I was too busy.
We're just
looking.
getting sidetracked.
I'm getting sidetracked. What did you just say on the Justice Center?
You asked me where's that located, and I gave you physical.
Oh, no, I was looking at the spelling of it. Where's okay, go ahead. Have you talked about that one yet? Justice Center.
The Justice Center, all the increases that you saw in that were contractual based.
Very little. Any questions?
Let's see here.
Of course, like I said, one, just to throw it out.
Building expenses, got a 16,660 increase. What's that?
All your building expenses are every item that we purchase to make repairs on the interior of the building. If you run our current numbers, we are starting to look like we're going to redline that line item this year. So an increase has to be made on that. Every good or item that we purchase to fix inside there is where that's coming from.
Okay. So you're assuming there's going to be that's 16 grand.
I'm pretty sure we're going to redline that by more than that and have to cover it from the other line items out of the commodities or contractuals.
Okay, that's all.
Jeff, you got anything? No. Anybody else?
I'm good.
Thank you. We're going to take a 10-minute break.
Okay.
This is going underneath.
I'll just start with the clerk's budget. There's not a lot of change there. One difference.
Is this your first budget?
This is my first budget.
Well, welcome.
Well, it's
Our
first
new
for this.
county clerk.
Yep.
We want you to feel welcome.
Well, you see the numbers she's presented, you should.
Yeah, and thanks for cutting the budget.
Well, some of it is like the SB 13, that's your R&R letters that we send out. We've spent less on that in the last couple of years.
Okay.
The state does reimburse us. They are for 26, 27, probably not. So we'll probably have to have that as a total expense on 27.
Yeah.
But other than that, do you have any questions about the clerks?
Not me.
You have any room in the training budget to make any kind of reductions at all?
Reductions? No.
Hey, you kidding.
We have all new staff, and I
She's
have
cut
to
this
train
thing down.
everybody.
He's over here.
So
16,000.
I don't know how I could.
That's a correct answer.
Well,
And that's a correct question.
Yeah, listen, 1,000 here and 1,000 there adds up.
I know that's right.
Well, I think she proved that by that cut in the budget.
We'll move on to the election budget. It's reduced in the salary just because I took some of the IOC hours down. But we did have an increase because it will be a little bit bigger election next year. But other than that, that's the only increase we have. Do you have any questions about that one?
That budget.
I just got to that.
Did, like on your dues and memberships, did your membership dues go up $50?
Did it go up? Everything's
Yeah, you got it
gone up.
budgeted for $250 instead
Yes.
of $200.
Yes.
Went up. And then your education and travel went up $850.
Same, we have a lot of people to train, including myself.
Good.
On that note, maybe, it did seem like there was trouble with maybe, I don't know if it was really more than mainly typing errors when people would come and file to run for office.
And it was. We have, and like I said, we have all new staff, so they weren't used to proofing and reproofing and proofing again, but they're getting there.
Awesome.
So we will definitely fix that. And that was their first go around with any of it.
Very good.
I don't know if you've got it separated out. I was looking for it. Do you know off the top of your head how much the revenue neutral
mailing
costs us?
Well, so far I've
a
paid
year?
$18,000, and that's just to get things going. It's not the mailing, it's not the
Yeah.
entire thing. So we usually it runs about $25,000, if not a little, and I expect it to be a little more this year.
Total for the year,
Mhm.
once you've done all.
Just for the mailings,
So about
for
20.
the R&R mailings that everybody gets.
From the state, do they reimburse?
They are in 26 now. They haven't up until now, but are 27.
That's my story, and
February,
I'm
no.
sticking to it.
You were told in 27 they're not.
Told in 27 they will not reimburse that.
So another
It will
state
still be
unfunded
required.
I got to see 26 first, Jeff.
So, yeah, I'm thinking you're not going to see that, but another state unfunded mandate.
Okay, any other questions?
And the last one is just our tech fund, and that I use to pay a lot of our voting software renewals and what have you out of. And that budget went down just a little bit, but everything pretty much the same.
You probably already explained this with where supplies and postage. Projections of 34,000 and 25 and 2025.
On the election budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's building in room for if we have a mail ballot election. Postage we have a lot of postage for our advanced ballots. And the supplies would be ballots themselves. So that's all built into that as well.
Why does it go down? Because it says here 34,000 was projected for 25, for 26 is 25,000.
Well, we're hoping that we won't have to have as many. It gone down because we won't, but like 40% is all we'll order of the ballots for this election. Next year, we're only going to order probably 60% because that's the turnout we've had in the past. It depends on how much turnout we have. But we've always had enough to cover that, so that's why we took it down just a little bit.
Okay.
So what happens if
you're happy
run
I'm
out of
happy.
ballots? Do you just make copies, or
No, we can't. We would use the express votes. The squares that you see on tabletops, they also are voting machines. We used to use those.
Okay, so
all the time.
if you
So if we were to run out of ballots, that's what we would use. We would they have a little oblong piece of paper or rectangle piece of paper that goes in, prints the ballot, and then it can run through the
I remember those.
DS300s as well.
So that would be like in the perfect world for election people if we had a huge turnout.
Yes.
Then
Right.
which we're probably not
Yeah,
going to
we
have.
always have the backup. We always have that backup.
And the
for that.
school board elections, what do you municipal and school board?
For this year?
What do we typically get? 10 or 12%, or
Well, I'm ordering 40%, but yes, we'll probably have 20, 30 maybe.
Probably that's what it goes.
I don't think last time we had that high.
12 or 19 or something. I forgot what.
Yeah.
People need to vote, but that's all we can say on that.
That's
Anything else, Mike?
Your software and support, you budgeted down. So do you think you've got enough?
Well, there's a lot, we're doing the no ink updates or the updated tablets. Those should be in, so I won't be paying that for next year. It will already be paid. So that was a big chunk.
Okay. Well, thank you, and
Any other?
we will always try to be nice to you.
Anything else?
Here.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks very much.
I guess the counselor.
Can't speak for all the commissioners, though.
Oh, this is going to be tough.
Well, good afternoon. This is also my first budget cycle of going through there, so we've tried to keep it in line with the directives from the commission. But you will see that I did move some allocations around to try to more accurately reflect what we're expending funds on, so that the line items match what we're doing. The largest increase that you're seeing in there is there was a reallocation to add some additional funds to the court-appointed attorneys lines. This is something that I think has been a struggle for a few years, and I've been having ongoing conversations with the judge to try to decide how to handle the problem. But in essence, what we're seeing is we have, for those of you that have just joined the commission, we have some contract attorneys that are paid a flat monthly rate of $3,000 to provide the indigent services that we're required to provide. However, a lot of the attorneys are quitting, and our panels jumped from 5 and 6 down to 3 because the volume of the work is going up, and the attorneys can frankly make more money in private practice or elsewhere in the metro. So what we're seeing is a bunch of conflict attorneys where we're seeing large bills coming in each month with that. I have more details if the commission has questions on that, but in essence, our contract attorneys are working for about $50 an hour when you average out their $3,000 over their average work per month that they're putting in. So there is a increased allocation there. Just to preempt Commissioner Sieben, if you're asking about the education and training budget, you'll see I did reduce it $1,000. I'm hoping that this year to see John and myself and Roger attend some of the League of Municipality conferences. I think it's valuable to, even if you're going to Wichita, to go and meet other county councilors and folks to brainstorm and have connections in other communities. there's any particular questions, I'm open for it.
Commissioners?
Question.
Go ahead, Mike.
If we did not have a second attorney on staff, would additional litigation legal services have to be outsourced?
It would be difficult. I mean, there would be times where, yes, we would have to outsource some of the projects that may come down. I know for a number of years you have operated with only one attorney. I believe David was here on his own for quite some time. You do have Roger doing the BOTA and the tax sale matters, so you've had two in that regard. I wouldn't recommend trying to go do it with one. You need a backup. Something could always happen to one, and then you have none. And I think it's best practices to have two, just to at least make sure that we're covering all the things that we like to cover here.
Well, I think sometimes when I saw it with just one, no fault of David, but when we saw it with just one, sometimes things get by you when you're trying to do so much at a time, when it's good to have the other one there available to help with some of the, with some of the tasks that your office things, especially when we're getting sued or we have to have a lot of investigation on things that we're trying to change or adjust the law. I think it's good to have another one on.
I think we try to be pretty responsive, and one of the things Mark said when I interviewed here was he was afraid I would be bored. That has not been the case. We see a lot of unique issues. And
I don't think you're bored after one of the conversations I've had with you.
Is that how he got you in the door? Or
hoping I'd be bored?
That's how he lured you in.
It just seemed like a nice change.
We don't do anything here.
Okay.
Well, I just have.
Good job.
I just want to brag on you. I think you've done a great job while you've been here. I think we get responsive legal advice. You're always available, and we're all trying to stay on the legal straight and narrow, and you always keep us there, even if we don't always agree with your opinions, but 99%. But appreciate everything you do. Yeah,
coming from Mike, 97. Jeff, you have anything?
So, Misty, when you talked about the attorneys that we have to have, the contracted attorneys, that's required by the state.
That's correct.
For us to have those, so another state unfunded mandate. And the reason I keep mentioning this is because what you're going to find out, if you don't already know, almost half of our budget is state unfunded mandates. So you couldn't cut that if you wanted to. What I was going to ask, though, is I waited till we got you here. Well, what if we did? What if we just said, you know what, every state unfunded mandate in our county budget, which is almost half of our budget, what if we just cut that in half? Say we take all the county state unfunded mandate line items and cut those in half. Would not be enough money to adequately provide those services, I understand. But what if we did? What if we did that? What would happen? What if we just said, you know what, we got to cut the budget, we're going to cut all of our state unfunded mandate budget lines in half?
Going to jail.
It's a good question. Obviously, you'd be violating state statutes. So I would expect that there may be some kind of mandamus action that would require, that would basically force you to do it. And if you failed to do that, then I would expect that you'd be removed from office, and the state would.
So do you see the point I'm trying to make here is that almost half of this budget you couldn't cut if you wanted to. So I think that's important to understand.
And it doesn't get better every year. It's worse.
They add more every year.
Yeah.
They added 3. The one I just mentioned earlier was just added last year. They add more state unfunded mandates every year.
I would say half of my budget is unfunded mandates, and then if we want to look at the coroner's budget, that is also a state-required funding operation. On that, it's.
So, and the reason I bring that up is don't waste your time trying to look for little things to cut in those. What you probably should ask yourself first is this budget line item a state unfunded mandate? Because if it is, don't even waste your time looking at it.
So, speaking of an unfunded mandate, let's talk about these attorneys that are for the indigent, or for. Is there any alternative that's being done in other counties
that can help to get that cost down? Like, do some counties have an office of indigent attorneys, or what? I mean, as this cost just keeps exploding in our budget, what is a potential alternative for us?
Well, I've been looking into it because that is a good question. Some counties, I've seen them set up an indigent defense, like some have used Kansas Legal Services. Others have, I believe McPherson County at one point had issued a solicitation to get a group of attorneys to provide the indigent defense, and they give them X amount of dollars and they have to make it work. Of course, it has to pencil out for the attorneys to do that. I've been exploring different ideas with the judge and talking with our conflicts panels. You will be seeing from me soon probably a new solicitation to go out that will probably increase the cost of the contract attorneys, but break it up in a different way so that at least we can kind of wrap our hands around it and keep it from continuing to grow. I am working with the state, trying to get a contract in place to get a tiny bit of reimbursement on the sync court-appointed attorneys that we're required to provide. It's going to be a fraction, like maybe $25,000 at best. So those are the steps we're working on, but other than changes in statutes that decreases the situations in which a court-appointed attorney would have to be appointed, I don't know of any other ways around it. I do know the judiciary has, I've seen in the budget, I didn't know until I looked at it, they do collect some of the attorney fees back from those that get court-appointed, but nothing near what we're expending.
I've just looked at some of the numbers in our, in the monthly budgets, and it looks like some of the attorneys are charging rather high. I mean, it's not insignificant amounts.
No, I think, and this is part of the problem with our panel, as I said, they're getting paid kind of on average about $50 an hour for their work, and others that are just conflict attorneys that are required, the judge is trying to keep it at $150, but she can't force them to do the work, and they're not looking to come in at $50 an hour to provide those services. So we are seeing large monthly bills, and we have to do something to try to get a hold of it.
Yeah, it's an issue.
Anything else? Nope. Had a coroner.
The coroner has remained pretty static. I've looked at where we are today. I think we've spent about $105,900 so far, and statutorily, there's numerous situations where we have to pay for the autopsies, then the pickups of the transportation of the bodies. Looks like we're on track this year, and so that's why we're just proposing a static number in that regard.
Just as before. Questions?
I guess since that one's under control, we don't have to
Patrons don't
It's been
complain.
tracking up too.
Wow. That got dark fast.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Council on Aging.
Thank you, Misty.
Come on down.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. You'll see from the Council on Aging an overall budget increase of 2.79%. Tried to keep any increase as something that we perceived as essential, such as you'll see an increase in gas, you'll see an increase in postage because that went up, mileage, different things like that, but tried to keep nearly every other budget line static to ensure that those essential budget lines were funded. This is a year that we will rebid our meal price for Meals on Wheels. That's typically a 5-year contract. It comes due again in 2026. So you'll see that I allotted for an increase there in meals of 5% participants and at least a 50% increase in meal price.
That's where your main increase is, Connie, is that Meals on Wheels. The Meals on Wheels is where the main increase is.
Yes.
I'm saying 100,000.
Yes.
And we've all said or talked about wanting to make sure people get served.
Yes.
So, okay. Questions?
How many people does your department How many people are in your department?
59, including me.
59?
59.
Is that including volunteers?
No, 174 volunteers.
There's where the difference is.
There you go.
Wow. Yeah, couldn't live without them.
And you know about how much grant money you guys total collected?
Our
last
grant
year?
money is about 37% of our budget, so about 450, I would say, 450K.
450,000 last year was grant money.
And
And 120 of your 170 employees are volunteers.
And thinking about and really watching carefully the Health and Human Services budget to see what will happen with the Older Americans Act. We're looking at our funding remaining static at fiscal year 24 levels. But I know that budget hasn't been finalized. So I held all of our grant funds at 2024 levels.
Just wait and see. Yeah.
Just to be
Probably
considered.
best case scenario.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I was on a NACO conference call yesterday or Monday, where they talked about the funding and the intent from Washington, D.C. is to push more of this stuff back to the local level. And they expect counties, first of all, the state will have to pick up anything that the federal government used to give them. The state's going to have to pick it up, which means they're going to have to push it down to us. So then the county's going to have to pick it up. And it's actually one of the things that we're talking about is
I saw that too, and that's where I was going with that. Is you've got all these volunteers and $500,000 of funds that's probably going to dry up. So,
Well, with the decrease in SNAP benefits, you'll see more people leaning on Meals on Wheels. They're going to need to eat. And so if they're not able to collect their SNAP benefit, they're going to lean on pantries, churches, Meals on Wheels.
Okay, any more questions?
Question on your numbers on the events and numbers on education and training. Any room in there to leave it at where it's at?
So with a staff of nearly 60, I have 6 supervisors who manage people. And so with the required leadership training every year, plus we train everyone in CPR, AED, we did suicide prevention training, we have elder abuse training, things, plus we pay mileage in and to those events. There's not a lot of wiggle room there with a staff that size.
So you need the $500 increase?
I do.
and they supervise the volunteers too, right?
They do.
So what I'm getting at is you're getting such a bang for your buck with this department.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only 50 actual county employees. Okay.
I'm asking everybody.
I know. I'm just saying it out loud so everybody hears it.
Connie, he asked everybody.
That's okay. I was ready for it.
You got to listen to the other ones.
There's got to be a perk for going nearly last. What was the other question?
The other, I just covering your events. Is that the cost of when you're doing like your fundraising dinners and you're just the actual costs that you're incurring?
Yes, that's what we have.
Whatever
For that. So we have some expenses to put on and to get those donations back that we receive. So for that cost, you see $3,000 will bring in $58,000.
Okay, well, I think you're doing a great job. We're just looking for.
Yeah, I appreciate.
We're
it.
looking for under every rock.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. Any other questions for Connie? Thank you.
Commissioners,
Yes.
while Connie's here, we do have the Meals on Wheels that you'd asked us to look through the program, come up with maybe a couple of different scenarios
Yes.
on how we can address any kind of a waiting list. And Connie has done that. We'll have that next week,
23rd.
the 23rd.
They're good. Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Okay, solid waste. She's been waiting a while. Come on down.
Well, you never know about traffic.
Yeah. Okay.
I was coming to a safety meeting one time, and there was an accident, and so I stopped to help him pick stuff up, and then almost missed most of the meeting. So, I mean, you just never know.
Okay. All righty, go right ahead.
Okay. As with every year, my biggest increase is in landfill charges.
Yeah.
I have 50% remaining for this year, and the CPI increase starts July 1 of every year. So that's where my biggest increase is.
Commissioners, I think we've talked about this before. Tammy's fund is an enterprise fund.
Yep.
That means it's self-funded.
Yep.
There's no ad valorem taxes that go into it. It used to be that way 7-8 years ago, and we changed it over to where it is fully self-funded. And the reason it was is we were subsidizing one of our haulers, one of the city haulers. So once we did away with that, we were now then able to be self-funded. The CPI increase that she's referring to in our contract with our landfill, they are allowed once a year. They're allowed a CPI increase, and so that's why it just happened actually in July. Just
right.
The first week of July, we got our CPI increase that they're allowed per contract. So that's how we adjust our rates. Basically, the money we collect is the money we have to pay somebody else to haul it off and put it in our landfill and cover the costs of our staff and capital improvements. This is not a profit center. No money comes back out of this to the general fund to try to pay for anything. The only thing they pay for that isn't in their fund is their employee benefits. That is the only transfer out of there, and that's to pay for their health insurance and their payroll taxes.
Any other comments, questions?
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we got HR coming up.
Okay, thank you.
I did just text them to let them know we're running way ahead. So
Okay.
It's always good to be ahead.
yes.
Wish we were in everything.
So
Amen, brother.
we were discussing when you were out, Mr. Chairman,
That's about right.
that we did not adjourn the meeting this morning.
Motion to adjourn.
No. We have Commissioner.
Kidding.
Second.
Don't get it. We have something we want to bring up here.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed, do you want to?
Bring us back into the
If the
meeting.
commission so wishes.
Well, we did wish.
I was thinking if we could get this, that Chase handed out earlier, if we could get that maybe on an agenda for in the future.
I'd like to look at it, yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about that proclamation thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Take a look at it, yeah. Any motion on here?
Do we have room for that next week?
To put it on so that you can review it, and then I think is what we talked about is you'd have a chance to review it before we actually read the proclamation.
Yes.
Proclamations going forward, is that
That's what we said we're going to be. That's what we said we're going to be
So
doing.
I'll put it on. I guess I'd put it on under just administrative business.
Okay.
And then if you guys have anything, you'll have it in your packet. You can review it, and you can tell me if you want any changes or updates. And then the following week it would be on for review. Would that be okay?
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I'll do.
I like what the young man had to say.
I need to make sure I have a copy.
Come on up, Molly.
You're early.
Yeah.
I was aware. I was watching
We're
online,
ahead
but I
of
wasn't ready.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And it was a little late.
No
Okay.
problem.
I know.
Hello.
I agree. But then when it got going,
You know, we have everybody gets to tell a joke before they start the meeting.
I've been watching. That's not how it's been started.
you tell it.
I've been watching.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay.
Welcome, Margaret.
We'll end with, I think I'm the last today, so super easy, right?
Let's
I have a
see.
very small budget and a small staff. Overall, even with the 2% increase for all of our salary for the three of us on the team, we were able to make some adjustments and come in, excuse me, for a total increase less than 1%, about a 0.5% increase total for our budget for the year.
we saw that decrease that we were expecting from our switching our payroll companies. We have seen that a little bit. We continue to see a decrease in our drug testing costs and some other things that we're doing, which is good because we've seen an increase in postage and supplies, so it's kind of evened out there. But we came in $2,200 less on our budget than last year. Like I said, it's very small compared to some of the other ones that have been up here speaking.
Questions?
Yeah.
Good job.
Do you think we need to do another salary study countywide, or maybe for specific departments to see if we're keeping up with what the pay scale is for these departments? Because
Potentially specific departments. I know that I stay in touch with, I've made some good contacts with other counties, and I still have a lot of contacts out in the other industries from my previous employers as well. EMT, sheriff, and public works seems to be our three departments that struggle with competition the most.
it changes so fast is the problem every year.
Don't does Mark, he's playing B Market, didn't they used to do studies every year, every 2 years around the county, what the average?
They do. Mark still does that.
So did you get a copy of that?
In America. We have access to that information. We didn't participate this year just because.
I'm not. They changed it. It used to be a free service, and then they changed it, and they did a broader scope. About 5 or 6 years ago, they changed to where they started charging, and then they also changed the scope of the survey, so it's more of a rolling type survey. The last time I logged into it, it wasn't very beneficial because some of the information is so dated. And with the way the pay pays, and I think that's kind of what the struggle they're having is the way the wages are changing in the metro so quickly. By the time they get the study done and try to do the benefits and the study analysis, it's almost out of date.
Yeah. Well, Mark, some of that would be our case that we did one too. But the other thing is, it's a lot cheaper. What would a salary survey charge us?
For an organization our size, it's probably $30,000-$40,000 minimum.
It was 30,000 in Lansing. When I sat there, I think depends on your scope. The thing county commissioners have to be careful with is when you do these surveys and you find out it's not what you want to see. In other words, a lot worse than what you see. Then you've got to come back and make some changes on it. So when you go out for this, if we decide to, you've got to be very particular in what you're looking to get and who you're accessing the information from.
We've been handling it on an as-needed basis for the last 8 years, so that when a department is struggling with recruitment, we identify that department. And if it's a specific position like paramedics, we do it specifically for that position instead of opening up that entire department or the entire county. So it's been working pretty good. Bill is going to bring you something here in the next couple of weeks on his. The paramedics we just did, I think, earlier this year, late last year. So that's how we normally do it, and I think it helps us stay competitive. It just when it happens quick. And like Bill's issue right now with the public works, we're noticing it. It's the worst time of year. We're in our busiest time with construction projects going on, but so is everybody else. So when they can't fill their jobs, especially in the private sector, their fix is we'll just offer more wages because they can just add that to the cost of the projects that they're bidding on. We don't have that luxury. Our fix is you got to wait for a year to do your budget, and then you got to put the wages on into the budget. But that's a tax. That's not a fee. So that's why we struggle, and we always will. But I think we've got a solution that works. It's not as responsive as the private sector.
Okay,
I mean, with those contacts I have, like Mark said, I can reach out to them via email or a phone call at any time, and their pay plans are public like ours are. So we have access to all of our. The only ones that are private, I guess, are like Mark said, the private employers out there that.
And I see
that
that.
are our competition.
And they're not going to be on the
I
Mid-America
see.
Regional Councils.
Correct, and they're not on that survey, so.
And I see that. I see what Mark is saying, what you're saying also. Right now, lately, ever since COVID, it's been moving target.
Yeah.
And we have to, so, okay.
Well, Panasonic is opening.
What's that?
I said Panasonic's opening, and I believe their starting wages are $28 an
It
hour.
was in the upper 20s.
So, how do you compete with that?
Yeah. Okay, is everybody okay? You handle risk management too?
Say that again?
Risk management?
Oh, we do. I do have a second budget. Yes, we do the safety days every other year, and so we did not spend that money last year, but we keep it in the budget each year. So it's basically just a flat fee, flat amount for our safety days, and then a small stipend for each of our 10 safety committee members.
That's a big thing too, though. Any questions on that?
Nope, no question.
I don't think we ever spend the full amount on safety days, but that's
Just in case.
kind of what we've carried over from year to year when I
People
took that.
show up.
So, mhm.
Jeff, you have anything on that?
I don't.
Okay. Nothing. I think that concludes this. Do I need to make a
Just
motion
make
to
sure.
adjourn now?
Yeah.
We're done.
I
You
know,
ran every
I was like, oh, shoot. Running.
Monica, you ran everybody out of here.
I did.
And we don't even have a quorum right now.
I know it.
Okay, now
We're all good?
Now we got a
We're good. Click, Jeff.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff.
That's a good thing.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
But
Hey, we're a little late, but we'll go ahead. Aye.
Aye.
Okay.